right, episode 2 of CYA or Call Your Attorney. You got your boy LP. You also got
Phil.
And we have our esteemed professionals. Our partner, Brian. Please introduce yourself again, sir.
Brian Crockett. I am the guy to see whenever you have an injury at work or an employment problem. Please give us a call. You can also DM me on Brian or Bank on Brian TX.
And we have our viral sensation who still agrees to come talk to us. You know what I'm saying? She bigger than us at that. You know, she way bigger than us. You know what I'm saying?
I'm still poor.
She's slumming with us at this point. But please, Simone, introduce yourself, please.
Hey, y'all. I'm attorney Simone. You can reach me at 855-4Simone. I primarily handle serious injury cases and the like, but I actually also do legal strategy. So whatever type of case that you have, you can give my office a call. And if it's not something that I can handle for you, I'm going to get you a team of lawyers that are going to do a great job for you based on your facts.
Exactly. And guess what, guys? The team of lawyers may also include Brian. You see what I'm saying? You see how we are doing this? Because we've seen a lot. First off, let me we ain't got a camera on me, but I got to say this. I've seen a lot of people now with attorneys.
Oh, yeah.
Morgan and Morgan.
Yeah.
There's a brother who got a billboard on 59, Win with Willie. Like all these things. You know what I'm saying? Now, y'all need to be messing with Brian and or Simone and Brian by proxy.
Yep.
Yes.
Like we telling y'all now. So if you rocking with the poor horsemen, these are the people you're going to rock with because they're going to get you right. You know, that's how it is. They're going to get you right. All right. So we got a couple cases we're going to talk to. So I'm going to throw it to you, Simone, first.
All right.
Because the Real Housewives of Atlanta, one of them is embroiled in some problems right now. Please take it for us.
So recently, the Real Housewives of Atlanta came out with their new cast, and people were really, really hoping that NeNe Leakes would be one of the cast members. But unfortunately, she was not. They brought back Portia, which was great, and Kandi was not coming back. But I have been saying they are not going to bring NeNe back because of the lawsuit. And I believe the biggest thing is NeNe sued Bravo alleging racial discrimination and what's called retaliation. Retaliation basically means on the job, you complained about them doing something illegal, and in response, they either fired you or demoted you or made your working conditions less favorable as a form of punishment. Generally, such a punishment that you ultimately are in a situation where you're like, I'm just going to leave this company, right? So that's the retaliation. And if you check out my YouTube channel, which is called Girl, Is That Legal? On YouTube.
That's one of the most ridiculous YouTube names.
Yeah.
It's a great name, though.
Nah,
It's a great
I
name.
like it. I like it.
It's a great name.
If you go over to that one, I actually do a deep dive into NeNe's lawsuit. And this is set up. I have a question for you, Brian. Because the gist of her lawsuit, when I actually got into the facts, is the issue that Bravo was having with her and why they ultimately did not ask her to come back was twofold. One, every time she had complaints, she would put them underneath Bravo executives' Instagram page or the Bravo Instagram page. And they kept telling her, NeNe, take it offline. You can make your complaints, but bring it to HR, bring it to someone who can launch an investigation. Don't put it on your homeboy's page and be like, Andy Cohen is racist, right? They said, take it offline. And then the second thing was during the reunion, her final reunion, which was during COVID, she got mad and she basically walked off the set. By that, she closed a computer. And so they said, as a punishment for that cannot be tolerated. They told her, we will not be bringing you back next season, but instead, we will give you a development deal for your restaurant show. That was when she had Lanithia.
Okay.
Now, peep this. Many people don't know they offered her $150,000 for that development deal, which she said was insufficient. She said it wasn't good enough. Let me tell you, as a person who's been on reality TV, girl, that's a good deal. Because a development deal is just basically to shoot your pilot.
Yeah.
It's not to pay your cast. It's not to pay any of that. And so with that deal, they said, so basically the season where you would have been filming with us, you'll be filming to develop your own show. Well, if that was a hit, like how Kandi did, then you'll be making much more. Kandi took the offer. NeNe didn't. So between that, I think it's hard on NeNe's facts for her to show that the reason they didn't bring her back was punishing her for complaining on Instagram, right, about the racism. and not simply punishing her for walking off the stage, which they have also punished, other cast members from prior Real House for doing. But I want to ask you, Brian, when it comes to retaliation, are there rules do you simply, to be protected from retaliation, do you have to just go the HR route, or could you be in trouble if you go to social media and say, I work at McDonald's and McDonald's is racist, and my boss is racist, and my coworkers are racist?
So the attorney answer is always, it depends. But I will tell you that following through with the actual procedure is always what you want to do, because as LP was saying, they follow through with the procedure and you want somebody to investigate it. And as they're investigating it, they're going to create a paper trail. They're going to have witness statements. And so with that information, you can use it in your case. When you go to social media, you're not able to actually track anything other than they can point to you and say, sure, hey, you didn't follow the appropriate procedure. So when we look at a case, what we do is we actually look at it from the defense perspective. And if you're going to defend a case, you want to be able to point to, hey, you did all these other things. You had other available avenues. You didn't use them. In fact, you're the rogue person who's creating problems versus really identifying the problem. And so it happens, but what you should be doing is going to HR because you want them to create evidence for you.
That's crazy because most people would think social media was a paper trail. Oh. Like that they went and made the claim in front of the public. And because some people think HR is their enemy. Mm-hmm. They would assume that if I go to HR, it might just get buried.
It could. Go ahead.
Does NeNe think that she's bigger than the show?
That's a good question.
I think at this point, she does. Because it's like the things that she say, it sounds like if they would take her back, she would be there for the right price in a moment, right?
Most definitely.
But they forget at the end of the day, it is not Andy's choice. At the end of the day, they still have her suing them triggered their employment liability insurance.
Of course.
So the insurance carrier, I can't see one approving her coming back because that's walking into a lawsuit. It is the same thing that has kept Colin Kaepernick out of sports for a while. Is that, remember when he tried to come back and he had that workout, but they wanted him to sign those documents? Those documents, many don't know, those documents were so that the insurance carrier or the NFL...
Indemnifying the NFL, right?
Yeah. Well, what it was is it was so that the insurance carrier for the NFL would approve him coming back, right? Because they would be walking into a lawsuit. So the paperwork was effectively saying, if we let you come back, you're not going to sue us. Otherwise, they are literally walking into a lawsuit. So it's the same thing with NeNe. If she is to come back, they would have to, no insurance carrier would cover the show, and the show can't operate without insurance, guys.
Yeah. So what kind of lawsuit are you looking at for discrimination? That's a weird one. What kind of damages would you see for someone with discrimination?
The damages really for her, you're going to be looking at, hey, how much has it affected her, right?
Wow. Okay.
But when you put it together, she's, depending on how, if I'm defending the case, I would say, hey, you're bigger than the show. Your career hasn't been affected. This hasn't been anything that's, affected you.
Her house was going into foreclosure. So it sounds, if I was her lawyer, I'd be like,
Right.
But is that personal things?
And you can point to those things and say, hey, it could be because of these other, bad decisions.
Yeah.
Anytime you have the pro athletes that invest their money and then the thing tanks, you're going to be able to say, oh, it's just like somebody else. And so the big thing for me is looking at NeNe and then saying, hey, how are you going to be connecting the dots? And that's the part that a lot of people kind of miss. All right. So for her, you've got to be having, the counseling sessions. You've got to have, that you've seen a counselor or a psychiatrist or someone to really build up how these damages have affected you. And a lot of people, there's a stigma with it. And so they don't go and get that treatment, or maybe they talk to, their friends or family, but they're not talking to a professional. And if you're talking to the professional, then they can actually go in front of a jury and talk about how the injuries are really affecting you and how it's a psychological injury or emotional damage. Where if you don't have that, it's just, hey, I talked to Phil over here, and he says, I'm fucked up.
Yep.
Man, that's tough, though.
Yeah, I've even
crazy.
told some of my super Christian friends who don't necessarily, they believe that Jesus is their therapist, to talk to your pastor. You know, you could do church counseling, you could do any of that, but it's all about, if it's not
Wait,
in
that
writing,
counts? That would count as your paper trail?
it's not the best because you don't want the pastor to take the stand.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
But it's better than nothing, and it's a start, because what happens is if you start with your pastor, then we could get a statement, an affidavit from him, and then have you go to like a real therapist that could take the stand and could help defend you, right, Brian?
Right. Now, the pastor also, though, depending on how many problems you've had in life, could also know a bunch of other things about you. So that's why they might not.
And if
be
they
your
take the
best.
stand, they have to tell the
They
truth.
have to tell the truth.
Oh, yeah.
So if your pastor, if you've been so let's say, for example, you're Catholic and you've been going to talk to your confession and you've been confessing, would they be compelled to tell the truth?
They have to, right?
It's my understanding that there is actually an immunity for priests.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's-
there is an immunity in court for priests because, you know, America, we supposedly love Jesus, allegedly.
Yeah.
But
To love the
there's
Lord.
separation of church and state.
Yes, there's supposed to be, but there is supposed to be immunity under certain circumstances. Yes.
Okay.
So let me ask you this. All this has to hurt like Nene's image.
Yeah.
Because that's
Yeah.
mostly what brings her notoriety, right? Her image.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's tough.
And so one of the things that I think people really need to take time to think about and talk with your attorney when I have people call me to assess whether or not they want to do an employment lawsuit is you really got to think about what's the worst case scenario, because blackballing is real. Right? It is a real thing. And what ends up happening is, like, let's say you work for Coca-Cola and you sue them, but then you want to go work for Pepsi. It doesn't even have to be a spoken thing. Once they just do a Google search or whatever, and they find out that you're currently in litigation with your former employer, a lot of them don't want to touch you. They're like, we don't want to hire you. So when I do those consultations, sometimes I like to sit down with the potential client and talk about what is it that you want? Like, what amount of money do you feel would make you whole? What results? I'll give you myself as an example. I was working at an abusive law firm early in the beginning of my career. And I mean, it was bad to the point where the firm's policy was give them to the black girls because we were tough. Because he used to make all the white girls cry. When I found that out, I said, bitch, you got the wrong one today. So I put on my Sojourner Truth hat and I was like, fuck this shit. Please edit that out. Yeah, fuck this shit.
We're not editing that.
Oh,
What do you
okay.
mean? Yeah, come on.
I was livid because what I found out was they gave the white girls who cried packages. And one of the things that they had received was something called stress leave. I didn't know that was a thing. That's what happens if you work in such a toxic environment that you have a therapist to write you a letter that literally says they can't go back to work because their boss is so abusive or their working conditions are so abusive that it's impacting their mental health. The girl who had the role before me, she cried so much she moved to Paris, France and started teaching yoga and collected workers' compensation. You get workers' compensation for that. So literally she was getting paid to not go to work.
Damn.
Did that for a period of time and then got on with a law firm over there that didn't abuse
I need
her.
to get some stress leave.
And learning
I
that,
need
I said, all right, I'm about sick of y'all crackers over here. So,
wait, hold on.
What?
I mean,
sorry. I'm sorry. He was one. I say that because I literally learned I was the only black attorney in that office, but I was doing fashion law, right? So it was a very coveted role.
Mm-hmm.
So his attitude was just be happy I'm letting you work for me. And when I learned that the attitude was, they said, stop giving him white employees and white staff, white females, give him black females because we're tougher. That's why I called him the C word, okay?
Yeah.
Because I also couldn't figure out how come all the black people that were there supported him. Yeah. So it was me, I had a black legal secretary, and then there was a black paralegal. Anyway, one day he cussed me out real bad. It was a deposition I was setting up for Christian Louboutin. And I represented Christian Louboutin in the case against YSL over whether you could trademark the color red. So I drafted everything. I did the depositions, all that. I drafted the depositions. And he cussed me out because it was a Paris deposition and he told me to set up an interpreter. And I found a French interpreter. He was like, I was like,
I know you're from the hood and everything, and I know you're used to being tough, but I don't understand why you're so stupid. Why would you do a French interpreter? I said, because it's Paris. He was like, the guy's last name is Rousseau. It should have been Italian or whatever. I was like, I don't know that. You didn't tell me that, right? So that was my mistake. He cusses me out real bad. So then I went back to my desk, and then I would email myself every time he would abuse me. And I would email it to my personal email. Because I was like, I'm about to make these people pay once I found out what it was. And then I would email myself and I would CC HR. I ultimately told HR, and what I negotiated for myself was for 6 months, they would continue to say that I worked there, even though I would never come in. They would pay me my salary. They would, if anyone called to confirm my employment, they would say yes. I'm still working there, even I wasn't, because it's easier to get a job when you have a job, right?
Correct.
So they would do that for up to 12 months unless I found something else, and I would get paid for the next 6.
Man, attorneys be tough, man.
The other thing I negotiated is they would not dispute my unemployment. I did my calculation. At that point, the highest unemployment in America was based out of New Jersey. Well, I worked in the New York office. I said, y'all gonna let me set my unemployment based off New Jersey because your headquarters is in New Jersey. At that point, which was in 2012, I was getting unemployment $2,400 a month. I took my black ass to DR. I took the Texas bar. I moved to DR. I lived there for 3 months on $2,400 a month. I was rich. Plus the salary that I had from them, which was 6 figures. Fast forward today. Remember I said I made them confirm my employment for 6 months? So I bought a drop top Beamer, and then I bought my daddy his dream lot in a gated community in Texas. That lot that I helped him get is paid off to this day and is now worth $400,000.
I need more attorneys in my life. That's what it sounds like.
We paid $20 for it. So I say that to say it ended up being a $500,000 package. They really didn't have to come out with much anything because they just kept paying me for 6 months, but agreed to keep me on the website for a year. And I made them say I was always eligible for reemployment, even though I said I'll never come back to you motherfuckers. But that helped me get other jobs. And I made them write a reference letter and date it so that I would always give that out and I wouldn't have to worry about them saying something negative.
So have you seen similar settlements to something like, because it sounded like to me, she cutthroat. You know what I'm saying? That's
I hated them. And they never did another black girl like that. Ever.
So you was the pioneer, you a sojourner truth.
In my own little getaway.
So I just want to point out a couple of things that Simone brought up, which a lot of people, would pass over in the information section here, which is when you do identify something and you're sending it up to HR, CC yourself on your personal email. Normally what happens whenever you get terminated or you start complaining, you'll wake up one day and you'll try to log in and everything is deleted.
Yeah.
All right. And so that's the HR way of saying, hey, we're doing damage control. So if you didn't email yourself, you're thinking, I'm going to have access to it forever. Mm-hmm. It's not true. And so 1, you always want to document it to yourself. 2, take the time to actually write out the email and document the timing, who was there, who was present, because you're not going to remember. But you also want to talk about, hey, what did they specifically say?
Yeah.
Because they'll always ask you later if it went to a deposition, if you're just talking in generalities, that's not going to sell anything. You've got to actually say what specifically was said, and they're not going to have anything documented to dispute it. And so it's always important to have that documentation to your own private email that you'll have access to.
Man, it's a cutthroat word out there. Like people be...
I'm learning so much right now.
You know what I'm saying? You in a role where you might have to make sure you got to cover yourself.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
Now, there was also an HR lesson in here. This was a positive HR lesson. Mm-hmm. Since we know Phil's working in HR now here.
Are you?
He's actually drafting. It's called the No White Girl Tears Policy. So there is no favoritism. You cry all you want.
Those white girl tears were legitimate. Okay, I should have cried too. I just didn't know any better.
Right.
Now?
Shit.
Okay. Shifting gears.
Yeah. Just to conclude with NeNe, with NeNe's case, the current status of it is it's in mediation. Some people it got like dismissed or whatever, but people think that she wanted her. No, it's in mediation. They're handling it privately per the contract.
Gotcha.
There you go.
So another matter that I don't know how this is going to finish out because there's a whole documentary about it right now. Wendy Williams suffering from dementia now. That people didn't know that she was suffering from dementia as she was wrapping her show. Her segment now is Sherry Shepherd. Sherry Shepherd has taken her slot.
Oh.
Shout out to Sherry because I've been on the Sherry Shepherd
you
show.
go.
I have been there. So, but to this point, Wendy was such in a bad place that they have a guardianship over her assets as well as the decisions she makes. Is that something y'all see common for people maybe that are incapacitated is probably the wrong word.
No, that is the legal word.
Is that the right word?
They have
Okay.
to find you to be incapacitated.
Yeah, but this is my thing. How was she able to assign a guardian when she really didn't have the decision-making authority? She was already...
Woo! I'm glad you asked that.
Yeah.
So the court appointed the guardian, but what she wanted, and so what initially happened as she's been at Wells Fargo for like the last 20 years, her and her raggedy ass ex-husband. Okay.
Yeah.
And then she was coming in, they said, with people, they didn't name names, but apparently it was her son, Kevin. She was coming in with him and making really irresponsible financial decisions.
Yeah.
And because that same person, that same wealth manager had been working with her for the last 10, 20 years, they knew like something isn't right here. And they could tell she wasn't doing well. Now, she's suffering from alcohol-induced dementia. So the way the guardianship was created is many people do not realize that when you're dealing with wealth management people and those people at those banks are what's called mandatory reporters.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
There
you go.
I'm going to tell a little bit about myself. I don't
Please.
talk about myself much.
Ooh.
But
Tell us.
there are times when you need to let someone know, I need to report what you're doing. Because you haven't done this in the last 30 transactions that we've worked together on.
To be fair, he works in finance. This is how he knows.
Yeah, so I don't talk a lot about what I do.
We don't need to know. And
But I deal with
large accounts.
let me figure out the best way to say this, because it's a public forum. Billions of dollars.
With a B. Billions.
And there are times where you're like, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And you have what's called a fiduciary duty to report if something seems off. So in watching the documentary, I was under the impression that they were doing this because she was an alcoholic.
Nope.
That's where I may have missed. Okay.
So let me give you some examples. She was approving, she stopped working.
She did.
But she purchased an apartment for her son that was $100,000 a month.
Correct.
Okay.
$80,000 a month.
Thank you.
$80,000
$80,000 per month, although she's not working anymore. And she's so not working, she can't afford to pay her spousal support that's owed to her ex-husband, right? Also, her son ran up $100,000. So it was $100,000 in his Uber Eats. Those were the kind of, and he's supposed to be an undergrad. He's in undergrad. Get your ass to the dormitory.
$1,000 a day in Uber Eats.
Yes.
Nah,
Get your behind
to the
the cafeteria. You better eat that slop or whatever's going on there.
It's not slop.
It's not slop. But if it's Sodexo, we know you have your private prisons and you hire the prisoners. Anyway.
Right. So have you dealt with anyone that's under a guardianship or a conservatorship before?
Yeah, so where you see that happen is normally where you have a traumatic brain injury, and you'll see over about the 5-10 years after that injury, you start seeing these changes. You start seeing irrational behaviors. You start seeing things like they're living out of a car in the Walmart parking lot. They're, for example, we've had people get jobs and they've done off the wall things. I mean, just literally driving a tractor all the way from Texas, where they end up getting to Oklahoma, and they're like, "Oh, I missed my turn."
Man, really?
And those are the types of things where it happens more often than you think, but nobody talks about it. And so why you need to have that conservative is, let's say you get a bunch of money from a personal injury case. One, the jury's not going to give that person a bunch of money because they're like, I'm going to save your life. You'll just take it and go do drugs. You'll take it and people will take advantage of you. But the reality is, with a conservator, they will ensure that you have that money for your life, because it can happen to somebody who's in their 20s. And
I got one of those now.
How are they going to make it the next 40, 50 years just to make ends meet. And so-
I didn't even know that could happen.
Yeah, so the number one reason is the reason why the guardianship started was she was doing the weird shit.
Yeah.
And they reported it up the chain. And what happens is if they don't report it up the chain and they allow her to keep doing weird shit, then they get to sue her estate, whoever loves her, whoever ultimately takes control, can sue Wells Fargo for every dime that they should not have released.
Yeah,
so
because-
Wells Fargo was covering their bottom.
yeah,
so that was number one. And so because with Wells Fargo, all they did is say, hey, court, we think you should do a guardianship. Whatever you want is your
But they
choice.
should have a fidelity bond.
Well, so here's the thing. They have whatever. Wells Fargo has all.
I know
the
that's what I'm saying.
insurance,
They should have
But-
fidelity bond worth probably, especially some. She had
But
like
they don't want to tap into it. So
They
a
said she
fidelity.
had $40 million in that account.
So a fidelity bond is a bond that says, in case you're accused
Of
of
course.
mismanaging money, you can tap into it. So that's why you want to go and use people like a Wells Fargo or a
Yeah.
Bank of America. You don't want to use these mofos off the internet like Cesar Pena and these different people, to manage your money or to buy real estate from, right? You want someone bonded.
Yeah.
But here, what people don't realize with the guardianship, so Wells Fargo just said, hey, we think she needs a guardian. It's up to you, court. Y'all make the call. They did not say, we want to be the guardian. So that's an important clarification.
Oh, see, I missed
They
that.
never
I
said-
thought that Wells Fargo would have been in first position.
No, they're actually not. Wells Fargo is not her guardian.
I thought they were the guardian. Okay,
They are
I
not
missed that.
her guardian. It is actually an independent attorney that was selected after they evaluated all the people in her life that potentially can do it. And here's the thing. Sometimes for finance, I'm going to talk about finances. You want an independent guardian, right? Someone with financial experience and stuff like that, because that person is going to be licensed and bonded. And if they screw your stuff up, you literally can make a claim against the
yeah.
insurance company for your estate to get compensated. So we got $40 million. But here's the thing that she tried to do. So many people said, well, why didn't they let her son be her guardian? What? Girl, bye. First of all, we're talking $40 million here. There's two kind of guardians: guardian of the person
And
guardian of the money.
assets, yeah.
It started out with her only needed a guardian of the assets. It grew into her person, which is how the guardian ultimately forced her to go to rehab. Okay. But just the guardian of the money, what happens there is they do look at relatives, but they look at a variety of things. You can't be a felon.
Yeah.
You can never have filed bankruptcy, right? If you file bankruptcy, that means you don't need to be managing nobody's money.
Within the 10-year period.
Within a 10-year
Yeah,
period.
within a 10-year
Thank you.
period. Yeah.
You can't do that. So they looked over everybody, and then the judge said, okay, the people within her life aren't a good fit. We're going to hire an independent person, which was a lawyer. But her son kept saying in the documentary, why couldn't I do it? I'm going to tell you why. It's like this. If your granny, we know, if your granny had $40 million in an estate left to her, and you had this your baby cousin, he loved Granny. Granny raised him because his mama maybe got on a little crack or something, I don't know. But Granny raised him for a while, and he did 1 year of college, and he was working on his associates, and he quit college to go take care of Granny and live back in Granny's house. And he raised his hand, he said, Granny, I take care of your $40 million. Everybody in the family would say, the hell you are.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he tried to do. So he, at his age, at 22, was not equipped to manage $40 million, and that's why her son couldn't be.
How can you predetermine if someone's equipped to do it?
$40 million?
You look at how much they spend on Uber Eats, and you immediately say,
Start there.
"Not him."
Okay.
If you have never
But-
had, go ahead.
Go ahead,
But,
Brian.
but
Get him,
what I
Brian.
want to toss in here is the other thing you want to do when you're selecting a actual fiduciary duties. You want somebody who has to have this higher education. So they pick an attorney
Yep.
because the level of your standard of knowledge
Yeah.
is much
Yeah.
higher. If we said,
Right.
we're going to say, did the fiduciary duty do it as a reasonable 22-year-old would have under the same or similar circumstances? Pretty much the answer would be, yeah, they did. Because the 22-year-old's never going to do what is reasonable.
Are there
Right.
damages for someone who?
Not
Does
saying
that
not
by-
saying that these guys over here couldn't
I
have done
got you.
something
'Cause
reasonable.
that's their age. Yeah. But are there damages for someone who breaches their fiduciary duty as a guardian?
Absolutely. So whatever money you lost or the money that went out the door, that's why you pick somebody, as Simone was saying, Wells Fargo, because they have assets.
Yeah.
You know, you think of it kind of like if a general contractor comes up to you and they're a fly-by-night and they say, this is guaranteed for life. It doesn't matter. You're not worth anything.
Yeah.
I can't sue you for anything. But if you have assets that I can collect, then that's somebody that you want to actually have as a fiduciary duty.
Yeah, and there's no way that the son would have been able to get bonded for $40 million because
Of course
to get
not.
bonded,
Yeah,
they look
yeah,
at your
yeah.
experience.
Exactly.
But I want y'all to know the thing is, there's one document, one piece of paper that could have prevented all of this for Wendy, a power of attorney.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wells Fargo has a power. Every major bank has a power of attorney form. But here's the problem with hers. You need something that's called a durable power of attorney. That means it's in effect. You sign it while you're good, and it goes into effect when you're bad.
I have one of those.
The problem was, yes, and any major bank you go to, you can actually ask them, hey, do you guys have a power of attorney form? I'd like to sign it today. Her problem was she waited until the bank had decided she was doing weird shit to have her son sign the power of attorney. It's not valid then, because at that point, it's assumed you've signed it while you're no longer okay. And if you sign it when you're not okay, it's invalid. If she had her sister, whoever, when she was good, we would have never seen this.
Yeah, he doesn't know it, but I've got a brother here who will probably be my power of attorney.
There you go.
Yeah, like we've he doesn't know that, but I've got some stuff structured to where that the trust with the family.
Okay.
And then there's a power of attorney that I'll probably do with my brother.
Gotcha.
So I just want to add something that if you're looking for a power of attorney that is going to be someone that you think you can trust, especially for financial management, you don't want to find the person in the flashy suit. You want to find somebody who looks like they've been shopping at Walmart. And so you want to find somebody who is like this gentleman over here in the off the camera here. I will tell you, no one's going to think that this guy has been wasting your money. In fact, he's so frugal with everything, he's going to protect your assets.
Yep. And you could put something in your power of attorney if you wanted to add a sentence that said they have to be able to be licensed and bonded.
Correct.
For, X amount, the amount that is the total of everything that they're going to be managing in my accounts. Boom. Then you got it. Ow. If they mess up your money, you can't sue them. Well, not you.
Now, I don't know, Phil, I don't know if they're going to be doing the remix that she just did. I mean, what do you think about the remix she just did, Phil?
I mean, listen, all of this information, I ain't worried about the bullshit. All this information that I'm getting from y'all, like, it's
the law is incredible.
It's really incredible.
Yeah.
Someone is really monitoring your money
every day.
And that's crazy.
And this isn't a political show.
Yeah.
But even Donald Trump, for his New York businesses, has someone who has to monitor every dollar they spend now.
Absolutely.
Which is crazy to me. I don't think that it should be that way, but, whatever.
Well, we can't trust him, but yeah.
But, that's life. The government thinks they can't trust him. But I was like, the law is crazy to me. Like, how much control the law can have over your life.
I do want to say that when it comes to the having a representative or a fiduciary duty like a conservator, one of the times that you'll see happen if you sit in the courtroom long enough, what it doesn't do, it doesn't work, because what you're trying to do a lot of times is point to this fiduciary and say, hey, you messed up.
Exactly.
And so because of that, I want my money back. Where it doesn't work is, I've seen this before, if you go to Vegas and you go to the strip club and they empty out your credit card and you say, I was incapacitated, that doesn't work.
Oh.
So if you try that.
But if they ply you with alcohol, you are incapacitated.
And it doesn't
J-Lo
work.
was in a whole movie about that. J-Lo and Cardi B.
Oh, she sure was. So
little scammers.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get
in fact, what you'll see actually happen is they'll have videos saved where it's you signing the things, and then they have their signature, and they tell you. That's why if you go to a strip club, Phil's told me that they tell you don't bring your credit card because they're going to force you to sign it.
Real.
Yeah, credit cards at strip clubs are the worst.
Tip, whenever I'm in like Mexico or other countries where they make me sign it and I'm like, no, but they're like, well, you can't leave. Sign the word dispute.
Look at you. I sign
duress.
Something about my name. I can't remember right now because I'm drunk. I've been drinking since
I do dispute in cursive. They never look at what you sign. Baby, I have disputed so many foreign transactions and got my money back because I wrote the word dispute in cursive real nice and pretty.
Yeah, I have done the same thing. Or I'll put like, dang, I can't remember what I write, but it's like your name or something like that.
Oh.
Where, so they know it's not me. And then I can say, hey, I didn't even sign this. I've definitely done that.
I like that.
So, okay, we got some messy divorce stuff going on.
Woo!
For
in the A.
For Jeezy and Jeannie Mai.
Yes.
First off, Jeannie Mai didn't even know she was going to be divorced.
Oh, baby.
She didn't know. It was a shock to her. But right now there's some conflict in their divorce.
Yes. So they recently had a hearing because Jeannie Mai has moved the court to say, hold off on applying the prenup.
Correct.
And the basis is because she's concerned that he didn't disclose all of his assets beforehand. So apparently he only disclosed, they said it was like one document with no attachments. So in order for a prenup to be valid, two things must happen. It has to be freely entered into. And here it was signed the day or 2 days before. It was signed, 2 days before the wedding. That's always a bad sign because there have been courts that say it's invalid because this person was about to be so embarrassed. Their parents paid all this money for the wedding, blah,
So
blah, blah.
under duress.
Under duress.
Yeah.
And then secondly, here, it seems that he may not have disclosed that you have to disclose enough for somebody to give what's called informed consent. Now, I love doing background checks. If you go to my channel, girl, is that legal? I give away free background checks into the person of your choice. So I did me a brief little background check into Jeezy.
Can we do a background check on our employees?
Yes, but
like
not with
to,
the software that I have.
Because these two right here, I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Phil, what do you think? Should we background check them?
Definitely.
I mean,
I'll
'cause
be
they're
scared.
criminals. They're criminals. So go
I
ahead,
feel
go.
like I'm gonna find something on Phil before I find something on them, but we'll see.
Can we do a back check? Can we also do a
Phil,
background check on
how many
our
kids are claiming
two
you?
patrons that are in here right now? We need to background check them too.
I
We
want
need
to
to
know,
back
Phil,
up
how many
that.
kids are claiming you versus
I
you
have
claiming them?
one child.
I do know that. I do know that.
Okay.
I do know that. One child.
That's it.
And a
I'm not-
possible.
And a possible.
No, possible.
There is a
One that
possible.
he
Let's
counts.
be real, Phil.
One that he counts.
Let's be real. Possible too.
No.
But like for an example here, so Jeannie Mai is saying that he just gave her like basically one piece of paper. More than likely, it's a document that listed like these are my assets, maybe these are my bank accounts, and perhaps this is how much is in it. But the thing is one of the things, for example, that I found on Jeezy is that Jeezy has multiple LLCs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you also must list your LLCs.
Why
Some
though? Why?
Why? Because if you control them, that's you controlling the asset. If you have the ability to give or take from that LLC, it's no different than it being yours.
See that's where it's weird to me because LLCs are pass-throughs. So why do I need to disclose that in my legal document for a prenuptial agreement?
And this is
because those
why-
are pass-throughs. They're not necessarily a part of my income all the time.
It's because that is still something that a person has a right to consider before they determine whether your prenup is even
Brian,
fair.
what do you think? What do you think?
Every time you just like Simone said, every time that you think, hey, would a reasonable person want to know it, confirm
That hurts. That
consent,
hurts.
then how can I give you consent without knowing what these assets are? And so it is one of those things where you want to over disclose. Look, if they say, no, I'm not going to sign it, you'd rather say, then I'm not marrying you versus doing one like waiting all the way to the end and then popping it with this
But the
prenup.
LLC thing is weird though, because
But if you,
LLCs don't even make money sometimes.
But it's an asset you control. Here, what he has done is he creates the LLCs. His LLCs are what gets his touring money.
Yeah, we know that. We know
matters, right? That matters. But also his LLCs own property. So if he got you going to like maybe y'all were dating and courting and he got you going to this, one of them is like a $1.6 million Atlanta property, right? And you're like, oh, I like this man. He got money. He got mineral rights. That's how I think.
Mineral
You know,
rights are great.
And mineral rights are great. Mineral rights mean like maybe you could dig up in the oil or
Yeah, I'm from
the
Oklahoma.
sky.
We're a
Yeah.
mineral rights thing.
So it just means they own the property, right? But all of those things is part of what makes you feel like you're in a financially stable marriage or relationship. But then you find out that asset is owned by the LLC. Before you waive your right to it, you just need to know everything of anything that he's a part of. Well, here, it appears that he did not disclose all of what his LLCs have owned.
I wouldn't have either.
Or his trust. Well, wait a minute. I found a trust. Baby, I found his trust. And a lot of times, men, for whatever, y'all get on these internets and look at these internet gurus off Instagram.
Yeah,
and
LegalZoom.
Think that if
Of
you
course.
create a trust, you are protected and you don't have to disclose.
Of course.
Untrue. So here, what was happening is since they've married, he has put properties into the trust and take them out of the trust. He has sold properties in the trust, this, that, and the third, right? And it's okay to do that, but you have to fully disclose that one, you have a trust,
2, what's in the trust, and 3, the fact that you can put something in or out of it at any given time, because that's no different than your bank account.
Man, that hurts. That hurts. That hurts. That hurts.
So, Simone, are you better at being a lawyer or detective? Because both.
Yeah, I'm licensed to do both, actually.
Okay, so
Really?
Brian, I got a question for you then about prenups. Let's say someone was injured in a personal injury case. Are they required to share that revenue with their spouse?
So your actual personal injury money that comes in is not considered an asset towards the community. You in fact own that yourself. It's separate
Let's go.
property.
Good
Let's
job.
go.
Even
go.
when you get injured during
The marriage.
marriage, it's
Let's
still
go.
separate property.
You gonna hurt yourself?
Unless,
Well,
hold on.
Let me tell you. Hold on. I got a story.
Okay.
Please.
So I got injured in a 24-hour fitness.
Okay.
When you got on the pod,
Were you
Yeah.
trying to keep up with the other guy?
no, I was. So funny story. 24-hour fitness had what they call, gyms have dead spots.
Yeah.
They had humidity in the gym. The gym was, the floor was messed up. I ruptured my quad tendon. 2 weeks prior, someone had ruptured their Achilles tendon. 2 weeks prior to that, someone had ruptured their quad tendon also in the same spot. 24-hour fitness was like, well, you all signed this disclosure. But us 3 or 4 people who had got hurt at the same time were all like, we should file a lawsuit. Should we? We didn't go through with it, but should we have?
How long ago was it? Maybe it ain't too late.
3 years.
Doggone.
Yeah.
Too late.
Yeah, 2 years.
Yeah, too.
I'm hurt.
Oh,
But
really?
absolutely you should.
You could have got a free house out of this, but I'm more upset that you didn't call me.
But I didn't know you did. I didn't know you did.
I think
Doggone
you unfortunately
Wait, hold on,
deserved
hold on.
what
This was
happened because you
2021.
didn't call me.
Yeah,
now,
this was 2021.
now
Yes.
what I will say though is whenever you sign those releases, there's ways to get out of those releases.
Okay.
So anytime they'll tell you, hey, you can't sue us, we can't do anything, that's what I'm going to show you to your face. But the reality is there's ways to get
But
around
multiple
That's why
people
you-
got hurt in the
Right.
same
But so
spot.
that's what, remember I just talked about informed consent
Yeah.
prior? Like you
Right.
can't give it if you don't know all the facts. If you had been told, oh, and by the way, 4 other people in the last month have been injured here
we all
using the
talked.
same equipment that you're planning to use when you come here regularly. You'd be like, oh, hell no, I'm not finna, not only am I not finna sign this, but I'm not finna come here. So that's why that waiver will not stand with a lawyer like Brian,
And
right? Or me.
what's
Right,
crazy is
because
we
they
all
didn't
talked.
disclose it, right? And that's
Yeah.
Now, the fact is, were you guys talking because you were both on the ground together?
No, so afterward, when I got hurt, it was the watershed moment.
Right.
Because everybody was like, yo, how did you get hurt? Like, you're in here all the time.
Right.
I'm not saying I'm in the best shape, but for my age, I'm in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
Like everyone was like, yo, that's crazy that you got hurt. And then multiple people came back and was like, there's this spot in the gym that is always dark compared to the rest of the gym.
Is this the one we go to?
Yes.
Okay.
It's fixed now.
Okay.
And you know what's crazy?
Oh, when
They-
it get fixed.
They fixed it a month after I got hurt.
Gotcha.
A month after.
That's
I-
usually an indication.
I came in with crutches because I was talking to an attorney who told me not to pursue the case. I went in after and I was like, well, doesn't look like anything's wrong now.
Okay, yeah. All attorneys aren't created equal. Just call me or call Brian. Just do that.
They
But,
told me not to pursue it.
No,
Yeah.
that's because they didn't know no better. It's okay.
And this cost me $30,000.
Oh, that would have been so much fun.
I had a quad tendon,
Yeah,
MCL,
house.
PCL, ACL. I had 2 surgeries in a mix of 4 days. You remember?
So yeah, I do. So looking at that case, what would that outcome have been like?
Brian, get him.
And so when it comes just to how physically it's changed you, I mean, you used to be like this really strong guy. Now, we can see this difference.
I'm weak.
But you're talking about when you have those types of injuries, it's a permanent
Traumatic.
injury. It will never be the same.
Never.
You'll never get to the same point of like flexibility wise,
Never.
strength wise.
Yeah.
And so it is a lifetime injury. You can have those cases be anywhere from $200,000 to $1 million result.
Man, I'm
But
fucked up. I should have did it.
When it comes to what Simone said earlier, which is not all attorneys are created equal, you'll find people to go to the attorneys that they've worked with. And so they go to the traffic attorney or the family law attorney.
I went to a family law.
Somebody for the
And
boy.
what they're going to tell you is pretty much like you saying, "Hey, I've got problems with my car. I'm going to go to the dentist." You know, they're not going to know what to talk about.
Man,
Great
I'm
example.
tripping.
That's it.
Great
So you say
example.
I'm out of my period of time?
So you had 2 years.
Yeah,
to do
unless we got a
something.
discovery rule. Well, we really don't. No, we don't have a discovery rule because it was real injury.
And
yeah.
on top of it, you had multiple people, so you could have had like 4 or 5 people that were
Oh, I
in
still
that
got them.
case.
We have a group chat.
No. But if you would have brought them all in one case,
That's what we've done.
then you would have got a huge result because it's not just it was one person. It was
Right.
all of these people.
I used to work for a company that had like franchise and stuff.
I'm
and
hurt.
we had a bunch of injuries like that. But like after the first one, I literally, as a lawyer, I evaluated the accident scene. I said, this is so dangerous. We're going to have a bunch of these if y'all don't fix it. They went back and they said, we're not really worried about it. 60 days later, someone else was injured in the same damn one. I said, I'm not taking this case because y'all about to get mollywopped in this bitch. And I like to win. And y'all not about to have that mollywopping on my record.
I should have did it.
Yes.
Yeah, bro,
All
that's-
of them
You
together.
remember. You
And
remember.
they would have
I do.
paid more for the confidentiality of y'all not disclosing how much you got.
I had to wear full leg braces for a year
Don't do that
to
again.
walk.
Literally, y'all, call me. Like, I understand I do specific areas, but one of the things that I'm really good at is creating legal strategy. So if you have a particular case, especially if you've been told like you don't have a case, my first multi-million-dollar case I settled on my own, that person, it was a wrongful death case. And that mama, her daughter died from a FDA cleared device. But that mama was turned down by 4 law firms, including one of y'all's favorite lawyers that be on TV, favorite Black lawyers that be on TV trying to help us with our civil rights, bless their hearts. I was the
Ben
only
Crump.
Ben Crump.
I'm not saying that.
Well, we
But
say
what I'm
it, we
saying
know what it
is-
is.
But what
know
I'm
who
saying
Phil
is,
is. His favorite
Me and
attorney.
Phil know the game.
what
Like,
I'm saying
yeah.
is that was a situation where the child died at a school,
Yeah.
and the prior attorneys all told her you don't have a case because Texas has a rule that says basically you can't school
School
districts for
districts, yeah.
that. But what I did is I looked at that fucking product and I said, oh, no. Something is wrong with this product because I've done FDA. I used to do FDA devices for years. And sure enough, the device had been recalled and the device was the cause of her death. And I got all of their money and I bankrupted the company. They don't exist anymore.
So let me ask y'all this. I go to these tournaments, right, where we go into these gyms.
Yeah, you got a case.
And in New York, I broke my hand.
No.
Yeah, I broke my hand in New York. Do I have a case?
On what, though? That matters.
Brian, do they have a
So-
case?
First of all, the question is, how did you break your hand? Which is,
Somebody else, another person hit me to break my
A
During the
celebrity.
game?
A celebrity.
if it's just a sportsman type thing, then you wouldn't have a case. But let me give you an example of sometimes where the actual gym, for example, when they don't have the padded walls, or maybe they actually have the out of bounds area too close to the walls, and people end up getting injured. Those
I
are
got
things
injured
that,
like that.
Bro,
that cause
that's
those
been,
injuries.
has that been within 2 years?
Yeah.
So,
Sit here.
so look,
No,
I came to a
I split
game.
my head
Phil split his head open.
open.
I was at the game with my seed.
Yeah, with
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, no,
Look,
he was
my
traumatized.
daughter is traumatized for life.
Uncle Phil
She
didn't
saw-
bust his head open.
Carter was with her.
Carter, my son was with her.
His son and my daughter were playing.
Yeah, they were playing
They
together.
look up and they see him bleeding.
Yeah, I was
Oh, hold on. Do I have a case? My daughter knocked out. Y'all don't know this. I got a temporary right now.
Tell us more.
My daughter knocked out my tooth on Friday.
You
It's
want to
a
sue
temporary.
his daughter?
I want to sue my daughter. What do I got to do to sue her?
So the problem is, if you sue your daughter, the person you're going to collect from is the
it's me,
parent.
it's me. Oh.
So
Yeah, they gonna work.
this
You
is a
can't sue
circle.
residents in the same house.
But
She
we,
knocked
we
out my
can say
tooth
we
on
might
Friday.
be able to help Phil
Okay.
because he still would be
It's
in the
been 2
time.
years. It's been 2 years.
Since what?
2021.
Oh, when I bust
No,
my head.
22. 22.
My bust my head or
Yes.
my hand?
The
I've
head.
had
But
several
let's do the head.
The head was 22.
Yeah. Head
Where-
was
But what was
what
the
month?
month?
Yeah, it's to the day.
I can look. Hold on.
It's to the day.
We'll look before the
Yeah,
end.
we'll find out. But yeah, in the end, what you want to make sure.
I mean, the other part is, how much more attractive Phil could have been without that scar. I mean, we're talking about tens of millions of dollars.
Bro, we need to collect on that.
Nah, for real.
Because their thing was too close.
It was. It
And-
absolutely was.
And all he did was a layup.
I did a layup.
And next thing I
fell
know-
into the
was this
blood-
like an AAU type competition?
No,
What was
no,
Nah,
happening?
like
I'm
It was
adult
a
league.
gym.
Adult league.
Yeah, it was like
Blood
adult
This
league.
was a senior
Everywhere.
division.
Blood.
Okay, yeah.
When I'm talking about everywhere,
Yeah, I was
everywhere.
bleeding bad.
Yeah, that's part of the because you also whenever you have those, like you have to get insurance for your event, right?
Let's go get
so
this
that's
bread.
part of that because I have a homegirl. She went to one of those AAU games and she loaded up her ex-husband with lead. He made him shoot her. She shot the hell out of that motherfucker, but he deserved it. Yeah, and it was great. So I took on that case for her daughter because their security was negligent.
Yeah.
Because they had an abusive relationship and he was choking her daughter. And so then she lit him with lead. Thank God she was found not guilty. He has a colostomy bag.
Damn, he can't even use the bathroom?
cheat. He can't even cheat.
Wow. Nah, he can still cheat. Like, there going to be women who take you with a colostomy bag. Trust me.
Well, yeah. Y'all talking amongst yourselves.
All right. So the case of the day. This is the one that when we said we was doing, because we already promoted, we do a CYA again. Everybody's like, are we going to talk about the Diddy lawsuit?
Yeah.
They wanted to know, and Brian, I'm going to go to you first, because I know Simone already turned up. She already ready. There's these issues that happen between employees and employers where someone feels like they're not compensated appropriately. And in this case, the person who felt like they were not compensated appropriately decided to allegedly spill details that were happening, that they were assaulted or trafficked during this process. Are they entitled to damages if this case is true?
Yeah, I mean, if it's true, then absolutely. I mean, when you have something like that can happen, I mean, especially if you're a male, it's going to be emasculating. It's going to be where it changes your identity. Oh. And there's no way that you can have you talking to other males and saying, hey, this happened to me, that they're not going to look at you differently.
Yeah.
Now, the challenge with it is you've got to actually be, as a male or even female in that same situation, open to being able to get counseling for it and talking about those issues. Because if you don't, if you say, oh, it is too embarrassing, what's going to happen is if I defend the case, I'm going to say, how traumatic could it really have been? In fact, maybe it didn't even happen, because if it really happened, you'd need counseling. You'd need to see somebody, and you didn't. And so now the jury's going, if that was me, I would have saw somebody and you didn't. Maybe it's not true.
Man. So the fact that he didn't seek professional help, it leads to the credibility of the case.
And on top of it, it's also, if something like that happens, you see a lot of these cases coming out where people have said, hey, this happened years ago. And the first question is, who else did you tell? And is it documented? Because if you keep it to yourself, then it's, okay, this is just an opportunity.
Man.
And so a lot of these, even the women that are coming out, they've told other people about things that have happened. And that evidence of some other witness saying, no, in fact, they did tell me, it adds credibility to their story, because we all know that if you had something traumatic happen, you're not going to tell a bunch of people, but who you do share it with and you don't go public, it's more credible.
Can the person who files this claim get countersued? Like,
great question. For defamation or anything?
And they'll do it a lot of times to intimidate against it.
Oh, that hurts. So you're saying that, to Phil's question, that someone can countersue me to make me close my current lawsuit?
I mean, look at the Stormy Daniels.
Yeah.
I mean, 100% she's telling the truth.
She is.
And yet she's being told, hey, we're going to go after you for all these other damages.
She had to pay for his legal damages.
Right.
That's insane.
And to clear that, so let me clarify. You can file a counterclaim for defamation, but you cannot win a counterclaim for defamation, right? So Black people say, can I do this? You can do it. You're a free woman of color. You can do what you want, but you're not going to win it. Here's why. There is a legal immunity for any claims. There's an immunity against defamation for claims made in a petition. So you can't countersue a person who's claiming you assaulted me. If you feel like they're lying, your alternative is you can file a motion to dismiss. You can file for sanctions against he and his attorney, saying like, it's so obvious this person is lying. You, lawyer, either should have known better and were reckless for taking this stupid ass case.
Damn.
You can do that. And that's actually better, because that way you're going to get paid
And you sue both the lawyer and the client, because that way you'll get paid from the lawyer's malpractice insurance policy. Because that client ain't got no money, right?
Yeah.
You can do that. But like some people have asked, what about malicious prosecution? That's only if someone presses criminal charges. So they can't do those things. So to clarify, the only thing would be sanctions, but you have to have evidence that this person is completely lying to be able to do that. So it's very tricky. Now, more than likely here, some people have claimed that they think that Puffy wants this case to move along just enough for him to file a motion to dismiss or win a motion so that he can basically start to reclaim his image. Win a motion based on these allegations being so ridiculous. Because I will say, compared to the prior lawsuits that have been filed, these allegations, and more importantly, the drafting of this petition, looks ridiculous.
To me, it looked ridiculous. I think, including all the players, like multiple musicians, multiple producers. It's kind of like the Fonnie Willis thing in Georgia,
right?
Where you add so many people to the case. You're like, I don't know what to believe and what not to believe. I kind of feel like I'm in a position now where Diddy's a freak. I would say that.
Yeah, we know that.
Diddy a wild freak. He one of the freakiest people on earth.
He likes to do all of
He's
things.
like right next to Phil.
And I'm looking at the petition here, y'all, so you don't think I'm just like over here I'm playing.
Look. I got OnlyFans.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, but Diddy is freakier than me.
Yeah.
And
You have an OnlyFans?
Chill out. You know what I'm saying? You
What are people paying for?
we make some money over here. Don't worry about that. We got Blue Chew.
you do.
Bring the Blue Chew out. Where the Blue Chew at? You know what I'm saying? Like
There's a whole niche market for ruptured quads.
we make sure that we rock hard at all times. But what I feel like in this one is that he saw what happened to Cassie,
Right.
and
That's all.
said, "This is my opportunity." So in Brian, going to you, is this a case that you would have looked at and thought it was serious?
Anytime you have multiple people making the same allegations and it's after the fact, you're not the first one, you're going to do a very in-depth investigation.
Okay.
What you're doing is you're trying to kind of fact check the story. And when the facts start getting so out there, you'll actually start asking them things to even push that farther. You might be suggesting, oh, was there any other celebrities there? Because if somebody's making up a story, they'll say, oh yeah, there was this person and this. They'll embellish the story as you ask the questions because they think, well, you're obviously looking for that. And so the more that they go off on the ledge and it's just in pure fantasy, then you start saying, hey, you know what? I'm really sorry that happened to you, but this isn't a case that I think that we can handle for you.
Yeah.
We live in a time where people believe the lie more than the truth.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
So me just thinking about Diddy and his whole celebrity is image based. It's ruined in this day and time. He's gonna have to disappear for a very long time. Whether the lawsuit is real or fake, it hurt him. Especially within our community. We look at him like...
I look at him like he crazy now.
Yeah, and it's like, you kind
He
of
damn
knew
near
that...
R. Kelly.
He
not, bro.
He not R. Kelly, though.
To me, if I look at it, the things that he were doing were not only the allegations with men, to each your own. Some people wild freaks, bro.
For sure.
There's some freaky people out here, whatever. But the stuff that he had with Cassie was damaging to a person like myself with daughters.
Yeah, for sure. I get it.
Like, I couldn't imagine my daughter going through that level of abuse without me wanting to put hands on someone.
Yeah.
So in our community, he out of there for me.
Yeah, man. A lot of people just...
I can't rock with him no more.
Yeah.
And he was one of my favorite entertainers.
Absolutely. And I think one of the main takeaways from this, I think, is this lawsuit versus all of the others. I think he's going to defend it more vigilantly, more strenuously than any of the others.
I agree.
With the reason being, the way in which this lawsuit was written. Now, mind you, this attorney that represents the plaintiff is also an employment attorney. So he is also trying to trigger employment law, insurance policy limits, as well as premise liability. Premise liability is failure to have adequate security. So he's claiming that there was a time when they brought in a bunch of songwriters and there wasn't adequate security and he shot somebody else, right? But with the writing of this, I actually think here, this plaintiff and their lawyer may be opening themselves for a potential extortion lawsuit. The reason I say that is there's a lot of extra facts in there that ain't got nothing to do with nothing pertaining to this plaintiff. It's almost like the facts were added because it was likely sent in advance. So in advance, you send a demand letter that says, if you don't give me this amount of money, I'm going to sue you for this, right? So you do that. And then secondly, the second time they ignore your letter, often you'll send the actual petition. I believe they likely sent this petition that we're looking at with all the salacious stuff in it and said, give me $30 million or it's going public. And likely both the insurance company looked it over and said, this sounds like some bull honky. And Diddy's personal lawyers, whoever those might be, said, okay, enough is enough. We're going to use this one as the example.
Damn. That's tough because now Diddy's backed in a corner.
He is.
Because
well, you've also got to think the other people that are named in the petition are going to be looking back and saying,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Hey, what's going on with your case? Because you're making me look bad. This is potentially affecting me. And so that's sometimes the way that you're trying to get them to force a settlement. But the reality is you're always having to look for the insurance company money because at the end of the day, you might have your money in the LLC or somewhere that is not able to access it.
It's the only guaranteed money is insurance.
The insurance company is going to make the decision a lot of times to say, hey, we think this is defending. I mean, we can defend this one. And then they're going to ride that one out. And they'll also push, because having worked for insurance companies, they'll push and say, hey, this is the one you can be able to get your image back because we'll win this one.
Right.
And with that, you're going to be able to say, look, we get in a deposition. And that's where the insurance company is starting to say, let's use social media and publish, here's what this person's saying. And it sounds so outlandish that now nobody believes. And they're like, maybe all that stuff about the other case wasn't true. Yeah. And then you start getting your credibility.
When does this stop, though? Like, are people going to keep trying Diddy? Like, are they going to keep going after him?
So what was interesting is after Cassie's law firm's lawsuit, I anticipated that more would come, just be the way it was structured, right? And then they took a second one. The minute I got this one, the first thing I did is I scrolled to the bottom to see who was the lawyer. The fact that the lawyers are not the same as Cassie's lawyers, it speaks volumes to me. Yeah. Because I would have difficulty believing that that man, that plaintiff, Mr. Jones, didn't first go to Cassie's lawyers with this fact pattern and say, will you take my case? Yeah. And the fact that they looked over and said, no, thank you, right? Because I don't believe that it was greed. Pretty much it's standard. The amount of attorney's fees are standard. So I believe they said no, thank you. And therefore he went to the person that he's at now. This attorney that he has is an employment attorney. But the fact that the other one said no, right? And then the fact that this one, if you read it, it has all these extra, it's naming all these people that are not even being sued. Yeah. It's naming Chris Brown. It's naming McNeil. Yeah. It's naming all these people. I'm telling you, I would be shocked if somebody does not sue Mr. Jones and his lawyers for extortion. Because more than likely, because what happens, the difference between extortion and simple personal injury is that extortion makes the claim that if you don't pay us, we're going to pursue criminal charges. Of course. Yeah. And this is laden with criminal charges, including they accuse him of wire fraud. Yep. Who cares? Yep. Who cares? You can't even sue for wire fraud. That if it's a criminal offense, even if it happened to you, only the U.S. Attorney's Office or a prosecutor's office can pick it up. So the fact that you are putting this in a petition, mind you, the petition never goes in front of a jury. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Says this is for the media. So I'm a lot more skeptical.
And I just want to highlight something else that Simone said is most of the time where you have a great result in a case and it settles or it resolves. Remember that law firm has all of the facts. It has all of the evidence that it has in place. And so you normally start there because with that, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Because everything that you do as an attorney, whether it's a deposition, now I have to actually incur more and more fees. Where if that person already has that evidence, you don't have to do it again. You already have it. It's in the books. And so it wouldn't make sense, like Simone was saying, to jump to someone new when they've already got a great result.
Man,
Right.
this episode of CYA is layered. Like, because I think what people may, and we want y'all to catch this. I know I don't have a camera on me, but we want y'all to catch the fact that the previous attorneys were best suited to handle this current case.
Absolutely.
But the fact that they didn't take it. So all y'all on TikTok, all y'all on Instagram, Facebook, thinking you all are attorneys, because we've seen a lot of pieces. We're going to make some clips out of this that I think will shock people.
Yeah.
People have been saying like, oh, this is a slam dunk. This really happened.
Because
This
he
was-
had pictures.
Because he had pictures and him with what's Cuba Gooding Jr. and all this. But in reality, if the previous attorneys didn't take it,
It's for a reason.
there's for a reason.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So I want people really to think about the consequences before you go in. But before we leave, give people y'all information again. Brian, start with you.
One of the things before we leave, I want to say is the greatest discrimination case that wasn't discussed here today. And this is going back to Atlanta Housewives. This goes back to Candy. It is discriminating against a black woman wearing a bonnet. That's still attractive. I think that that's a case. It should be.
It should be.
But that said,
I'm done with Brian.
if you
Brian
have,
has a black
Come on.
wife, y'all.
He does, y'all.
This
y'all
is an
don't,
important
y'all
fact.
don't know. Yeah, the
You can
fact
trust
is,
Brian.
You can trust Brian.
Nah,
Come on,
his
now.
wife
You
is
can
black.
trust him. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Brian is a partner with the Poor Horsemen, so y'all know y'all can trust him. But go ahead, go ahead.
we got the poor horseman and the soon to be rich horseman over here.
Yeah, he the rich one. You know what I'm saying? Look, he got a shirt on. He got a picture on his shirt. Nobody else has that right now.
I mean, right
Nobody.
now, though, you can
That's
only afford half some pants, though. But that said, if you have an injury at work or employment law issue, you can DM me at BankOnBrianTX. And what I do want to make sure is that if you think you have a case or you're not sure, we have so many times where we found other avenues of recovery where someone says, oh, I've been discriminated against, but it's related to a work injury. And then we've been able to open the door to be able to get great results. And so if you're not sure, just ask. It's free to ask.
Absolutely. And I'm Attorney Simone. Again, you can reach me at 855-4-SIMONE. That's SYMONE. Or on Instagram at Attorney Simone Redwine. TikTok, I'm still growing it. Is that legal?
Yeah, we got you on TikTok too. We got you.
And
Yeah.
my YouTube is Girl, Is That Legal? And feel free to contact me if you are in a situation where you have a legal issue anywhere in the US. Give us a call, because if it's not something I handle, it's something that I handle strategy for, and I can get you to the best team of lawyers that are going to handle your case and your specific facts, including how he talked about how it was, 4 people in that same situation. I have a case right now where someone thought, oh, I need to sue my doctor for this malpractice. And I said, well, what was he supposed to do? And she told me the procedure, and I looked it up and I was like, oh no, this is a device that was recalled by the FDA. And then I paired her with a law firm that was already representing 10 other people and helped her get a multi-million-dollar settlement. So reach out, 855-4-SIMONE.
Phil, we're going to get you right. You got your head split open
I did.
at the
I really
gym.
did. I really
We're going to
did.
get you right. I just want 20%. You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? I just
We're
want
going to be
20%.
able to get you somebody who doesn't have halitosis. We're going to get you somebody that you can enjoy being with. You don't have to hide in the bathroom and then sneak out the back. Okay.
And I'm telling y'all, we got the flyest attorneys in the country.
We do.
I'm telling you right now, between Brian and Simone, not only will they make sure they are part of the culture, they're going to make sure they get you right too. So that's what matters more than anything. So that has been CY. This is episode 2. Man, we done 2 of these already.
Yeah.
That is crazy. That is episode 2 of
Need to do more.
CYA. We'll be back next month. We out.